My mother-in-law handed me divorce papers at my own anniversary dinner and said, I had these drawn up before the wedding. My mother-in-law slid the envelope across the white tablecloth like she was passing me the check, and when I opened it and saw the words divorce papers, my whole body went numb. I had these drawn up before the wedding, she said, and her voice was calm, like she was telling me the specials for the evening. I sat there frozen, the divorce papers sitting right next to my untouched chocolate cake, and I looked at Sherlock, my husband of 2 years, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to tell his mother she had lost her mind. But he just stared at her with zero surprise on his face. Not shock, not anger, nothing. He looked like someone watching a movie he had already seen twice. Sherlock, I said, and my voice came out weird, too high and too quiet. What is this? He did not answer me. He just picked up his water glass and took a long sip like I had asked him about the weather. The entire table went silent. I looked around at the faces I had tried so hard to impress for 2 years. His mother sat there with her hands folded, looking satisfied. His father was next to her, and I noticed him checking his watch. Like this moment was a scheduled event, and he wanted to make sure they were running on time. I turned to Leon, Sherlock's younger brother, the one who always joked with me at family dinners, the one who texted me funny memes and told me I was too good for this family. I thought he was my ally. I thought if anyone at this table would speak up for me, it would be him. But Leon just stared down at his plate, pushing his food around with his fork, refusing to meet my eyes. Nobody defended me. Not one single person at this table full of people I had cooked for, bought gifts for, and bent over backwards to please for 730 days opened their mouth to say this was wrong. Adelia, my best friend who I had brought as my +1 because Sherlock said I could invite someone, grabbed my hand under the table. Her grip was tight, almost painful, and when I looked at her, her eyes were wide and angry. But she gave me the tiniest shake of her head, like she was telling me not to react yet. We think this is the best path forward, Sherlock's mother continued, and she was using her reasonable voice, the one she used when she was being cruel but wanted to sound like she was being kind. The marriage clearly is not working, and we have given this a great deal of thought. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table over and ask what gave her the right to decide my marriage was over. But something else was happening in my brain, something cold and sharp cutting through the shock. I was looking at the faces around this table, really looking, and I was seeing something I should have noticed a long time ago. Sherlock's father was not confused. He was not asking questions. He knew. Leon was not standing up because he knew too. Sherlock was not surprised because he definitely knew. Every single person at this anniversary dinner, at the dinner that was supposed to celebrate 2 years of marriage, knew this moment was coming except me. I had walked in here thinking we were having a nice family meal, maybe a little awkward like always, but normal. And they had walked in here knowing they were going to hand me divorce papers over dessert. How long had they been planning this? How many family dinners had I sat through while they smiled at me and passed the potatoes, knowing this night was coming? I needed to understand how deep this betrayal went. I needed to know who knew what and when they knew it. I needed to know if my entire marriage had been a setup for this exact moment. I need to use the bathroom, I said, and I was proud that my voice did not shake. Sherlock's mother waved her hand like she was dismissing me. Take your time, dear. We can discuss the details when you get back. Adelia started to stand up with me, but I squeezed her hand and gave her a look that said stay. I needed her at that table, listening, watching their faces. I walked toward the back of the restaurant where the bathrooms were, and I could feel their eyes on me the whole way. As soon as I turned the corner and was out of their sight, I stopped. I did not go into the bathroom. Instead, I looked around and saw that the private dining room where we were seated had a side entrance, a door that led to a little hallway the servers used. I circled back, moving quietly, staying close to the wall. The door to our private room was not completely closed. There was a gap, maybe 2 inches, and I could hear voices coming through. I pressed myself against the wall next to that door and listened. Sherlock's mother started talking immediately, and her voice was different now, sharper, more real. She took that better than I expected, she said, and someone, probably his father, made a sound of agreement. I held my breath and kept listening, because whatever they were about to say when they thought I was gone was going to tell me everything I needed to know. My heart was pounding so hard I was scared they might hear it through the wall. Adelia had her phone in her hand under the table, and I knew she was ready to text me if anything important happened on her end. I had spent 2 years trying to be the perfect wife for these people, and now I was hiding outside a door at my own anniversary dinner, trying to figure out just how badly I had been played. The worst part was not the divorce papers. The worst part was that look on Sherlock's face, that complete lack of surprise, like his mother handing me those documents was just another item on the evening's agenda. I pressed my ear closer to that gap in the door and waited for them to tell me who my husband really was. So after Sherlock's mother dropped those divorce papers like it was a party favor, I knew something was very wrong with this entire family. I pretended to leave, but I stayed close enough to hear every word they thought was private. Through that gap in the door, Sherlock's mother started talking about Phase 2, like she was running a military operation against me, and my blood went cold. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I carefully pulled it out to see a text from Adelia telling me to stay hidden and keep listening, that they were saying things I needed to hear. The anniversary dinner was supposed to celebrate 2 years of marriage, but apparently it was supposed to be my exit interview. I pressed my ear even closer to that door because I needed to know exactly who my husband really was and what they were planning next. Sherlock's mother's voice came through that gap loud and clear, and the first thing she said made my stomach turn. "I never approved of this marriage," she said, and there was something proud in her tone, like she had been waiting 2 years to finally say it out loud. From the moment Sherlock brought her home, I knew she was not right for this family. She comes from nothing. Her family is scattered and broken. She has no connections, no real career ambitions, nothing that benefits us. I heard someone shift in their chair, and then she kept going. That is why I started documenting everything. 2 years of notes, screenshots, recordings when I could get them. Every mistake she made. Every time she said the wrong thing at a dinner. Every argument Sherlock told me about. I have it all written down. My hands were shaking as I pressed against that wall. 2 years. She had been building a case against me for 2 entire years while smiling at me across the dinner table, while hugging me at Christmas, while telling me to call her by her first name because we are family now. It was all fake. Every single moment of warmth she had ever shown me was just her collecting information to use against me later. "The documentation is solid," Sherlock's father said, and his voice was calm and businesslike, like they were discussing a contract instead of my marriage. But we needed more. Something concrete that would hold up if this gets messy. There was a pause, and then he said the words that made me feel like the floor was dropping out from under me. "That is why we hired the investigator. He has been following her for almost a year now, taking pictures, tracking her movements, looking for anything we could use. They hired someone to follow me, for a year. Some stranger had been watching me go to work, go to the grocery store, meet Adelia for coffee, live my normal, boring life, all because these people were hoping to catch me doing something wrong. I thought about all the times I had felt like someone was watching me, all the times I had told myself I was being paranoid. I was not paranoid. I was being hunted. And what did he find?" Sherlock's mother asked, and there was an edge to her voice, like she was expecting good news. "Nothing useful," his father admitted. "She does not drink much, does not go out without telling Sherlock where she is, no suspicious contacts. The investigator said she is one of the most boring subjects he has ever watched." I almost laughed out loud at that. They spent who knows how much money paying someone to stalk me, and the worst thing he could report was that I was boring. But Sherlock's mother did not sound disappointed. She sounded like this was just a small setback in her master plan. "It does not matter," she said. "We have enough with the documentation, and Sherlock agrees this is the right move." She paused, and I could picture her looking at my husband, waiting for him to confirm what she had just said. I held my breath, waiting too. This was it. This was the moment where Sherlock would defend me, where he would say his mother had gone too far, where he would prove that our marriage meant something to him. "Maybe this is for the best," Sherlock said, and his voice was quiet but clear. "She has been unhappy anyway. I can tell. And you are right that we do not really fit together the way I thought we would." I put my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. He agreed with her. My husband, the man who had promised to love me forever just 2 years ago at our wedding, was sitting in that room agreeing with his mother that our marriage should end. He was not fighting for me. He was not even pretending to be conflicted. He just handed me over to her like I was something he had borrowed and was finally returning. "This feels wrong." Leon's voice cut through the conversation, and it sounded different from the others, tighter, like he was forcing the words out. "I mean, it is their anniversary. We just handed her divorce papers at her anniversary dinner. Does nobody else think that is messed up?" For a second, I felt a tiny bit of hope. Leon was saying what I was feeling. Leon was pushing back. But then Sherlock's mother spoke, and her voice was like ice. "Do not start, Leon. We have talked about this. You have always been too soft, always more worried about feelings than what is right for the family. This is not your marriage, and this is not your decision. So sit there and keep your opinions to yourself unless you want to be next." The room went quiet after that, and I could imagine Leon shrinking back in his chair, shutting down the way he always did when his mother got that tone. She had a way of making everyone around her feel small, and Leon was no exception. I had watched her do it to him at every family gathering, cutting him down whenever he tried to have an opinion that did not match hers. "Now," Sherlock's mother continued, and she sounded pleased with herself again, back in control. "Tonight was just the introduction. We wanted her to know what was coming, to give her time to think about her position. The real conversation happens tomorrow at brunch." "The family brunch?" Sherlock asked, and he sounded confused, like he was just now catching up to the plan. "Yes, the family brunch," his mother said slowly, like she was explaining something to a child. "We planned it specifically for this. All the important family members will be there. Aunt and uncle, your father's business partners, The people who matter. When she walks in tomorrow, she will be surrounded by everyone who has watched this marriage fail. And when we present her with the papers again, in front of all of them, she will understand that signing is her only real option. You want to do this in front of everyone? Leon asked. And there was something different in his voice now. Something harder. That is the point, Sherlock's mother said. She needs to understand how alone she is. She needs to see that this entire family stands against her. When she is sitting there with every important person in our lives looking at her, waiting for her to do the right thing, she will sign. Women like her always fold when they realize they have no support. I heard Sherlock make a sound that might have been agreement, and his father said something about making sure the papers were ready for signatures tomorrow. They were planning a public execution of my marriage. They had chosen our anniversary to start breaking me down, and they had scheduled a family brunch to finish the job. They thought I would walk into that brunch alone and scared, that I would see all their faces judging me, and that I would just give up and sign away my marriage because I had no other choice. They had no idea that I was standing right outside that door, hearing every word. They had no idea that I now knew exactly what they were planning and when they were planning to do it. Adelia's text had told me to keep listening, and now I understood why. This was not just about divorce papers. This was about power, control, and making sure I knew my place. Sherlock's mother wanted to destroy me in public, in front of everyone, so that I would never forget who won. I stepped back from the door as quietly as I could, my mind racing with everything I had just heard. 2 years of documentation. A private investigator following me for a year. My husband agreeing that ending our marriage was for the best. Leon trying to speak up and getting shut down. And tomorrow, a brunch designed to humiliate me into submission. I had about 16 hours until that brunch, and I was going to use every single one of them. I walked back toward the bathroom, pulled out my phone, and texted Adelia one word. Outside, now. Then I walked out the front door of that restaurant and waited in the cool night air for my best friend to come find me. I was done being the wife who tried to please everyone. I was done being the target they thought would never fight back. If Sherlock's mother wanted a war, she was about to find out she had picked the wrong opponent. After hearing my husband agree with his mother that ending our marriage was for the best, something inside me turned cold and focused. Adelia came out of that restaurant 2 minutes after I texted her, and we went straight to her apartment. We spent the whole night going through every single interaction I ever had with that family, spreading out 2 years of memories on her living room floor. Every weird comment about my background, every backhanded compliment about my clothes or my cooking, every single time Sherlock sided with his mother over me in an argument. Adelia pulled out her laptop and reminded me of something I had completely forgotten. You kept everything, she said, opening my email account that I had given her access to years ago. Every text thread, every email, every voicemail from his family. You told me 2 years ago that something always felt off, so you saved it all just in case. She was right. I had been collecting receipts this whole time without even realizing I was building my own case. We started going through everything piece by piece, and Adelia made a folder on her laptop for each type of message we found. The first folder was labeled Making Willow Look Bad, and it filled up fast. There were texts from Sherlock's mother to various family members saying things like, "She showed up 20 minutes late to dinner again. So disrespectful when I had actually arrived on time, but she told me the wrong start time on purpose." There was an email to Sherlock's aunt claiming I had refused to help with Thanksgiving preparations, when the truth was, his mother had told me she did not need any help and then complained to everyone that I just sat there. "Look at this one," Adelia said, turning the laptop toward me. It was a group chat between Sherlock's mother, his father, and 2 people I did not recognize, probably those business partners she mentioned. She had written a long message about how I was financially irresponsible and constantly asking Sherlock for money, which was a complete lie because I had my own job and my own bank account, and had never asked him for a single dollar. "She has been building a fake version of you for 2 years, Adelia said, her voice tight with anger. "Every person in that family thinks you are someone you are not because she has been feeding them lies." We kept digging, and the deeper we went, the worse it got. Around 1 in the morning, Adelia found a text thread between Sherlock and his mother that made me feel like I could not breathe. It started about 6 months into our marriage, and his mother's first message said, "You need to keep her away from her sister. The more she talks to her own family, the more likely she is to leave. Make sure she depends on us." Sherlock's response was, "I know. I have been telling her that her sister is a bad influence." She believed me. I read that message 3 times because I could not make it make sense in my brain. My sister and I used to be close. Really close. But about a year and a half ago, we had a big fight and stopped talking. Sherlock had been in my ear the whole time, telling me my sister was jealous of my marriage, telling me she was trying to cause problems, telling me I was better off without her. I thought he was protecting me. I thought he was on my side. But he was following his mother's orders. He was cutting me off from my own family on purpose so that I would have no one to turn to except his family. "There is more," Adelia said quietly. and she scrolled down to show me another message from a few months later. His mother had written, "Make sure she depends on us financially. Encourage her to quit her job or reduce her hours. The more she needs us, the harder it will be for her to leave." Sherlock wrote back, "She's been talking about going back to school. I told her we could not afford it and she should focus on being home more." She was disappointed, but she listened. I remembered that conversation. I had wanted to take some classes to get a better job, and Sherlock had sat me down and explained that money was tight and it would be better for our marriage if I was around more. I had given up that dream because I trusted him. I thought he was being honest with me about our finances, but it was all a plan. Every single thing he said to me was part of a plan his mother had made. "Keep going," I told Adelia, even though I wanted to throw the laptop across the room. "I need to see all of it." We found more messages, dozens of them, spanning 2 years of my marriage. His mother giving Sherlock instructions on what to say to me, how to handle certain situations, when to make me feel guilty, when to make me feel grateful. It was like she was coaching him through a game, and I was the opponent who did not even know we were playing. Then Adelia found something that made her gasp out loud. "Willow," she said, and her voice was strange. "Look at this." She had opened my email account, the one I shared access to with her years ago, and she was showing me something in the sent folder. Except I had not sent these emails. They were messages that looked like they came from my account, sent to Sherlock, talking about personal things, private things, things I had said to Adelia in confidence. "I did not write these," I said, and my voice was shaking. "Adelia, I never sent these." "I know you did not," she said. "Look at the times they were sent. 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. You were asleep." Sherlock had access to my email. He had been logging into my account while I was sleeping and forwarding my private conversations to himself, probably so he could send them to his mother. Every text I sent to Adelia complaining about his mother, every email I wrote to my sister before we stopped talking, every private thought I had shared with anyone, Sherlock had been reading it all and reporting back to her. My husband had been a spy in my own marriage. "That is how she always knew," I said. And suddenly, so many things made sense. Every time I vented to Adelia about his mother, the next family dinner his mother would make some comment that felt too close to what I had said. Every time I told my sister I was having doubts, Sherlock would suddenly be extra sweet to me for a week. They were reading everything. They knew every thought I had before I even finished thinking it. "Wait," Adelia said, and she was clicking through something else now. "I want to check something." She pulled up my text messages, the ones I had backed up to my computer months ago, and she started scrolling through names. "Leon," she said, and she clicked on his thread. "Have you looked at these recently?" I had not. Leon and I texted sometimes, just casual stuff, memes and jokes. But as Adelia scrolled through the messages, I saw things I had completely forgotten about. 6 months ago, Leon had texted me out of nowhere saying, "Hey, just wanted to check in. How are things going with the family? You can talk to me if you need to." I had written back something short and polite, saying everything was fine. A few months before that, he had sent me a message saying, "My mom can be a lot. Do not let her get to you. And if you ever need someone to talk to who is not Sherlock, I am here." I had thought he was just being nice. I had not realized he was trying to warn me. "There are more," Adelia said, scrolling faster now. "Look at this one from last year." He said, "I know you probably think I am being weird, but please trust your gut about things. Not everything is what it looks like." I had completely ignored that message. I did not even remember reading it. "He was trying to tell you," Adelia said. "Leon has been trying to tell you for 2 years that something was wrong, and you did not see it because you wanted to believe your marriage was real." She was right. I had ignored every sign, every warning, because I wanted so badly for Sherlock to love me the way I loved him. I wanted his family to accept me. I wanted to belong somewhere. And I was so focused on wanting those things that I missed what was right in front of my face. "You need to call him," Adelia said. "Leon tried to speak up tonight and his mother shut him down. But if he has been trying to warn you this whole time, maybe he is willing to do more than just send texts. Maybe he will actually say something at that brunch tomorrow." I looked at the clock on Adelia's laptop. It was midnight. Calling Leon this late felt crazy, but everything about tonight was crazy. I picked up my phone and found his number. My finger sat over the call button for a long moment while I thought about what I was going to say. Then I pressed it. The phone rang 3 times before Leon answered, and his voice was quiet, like he was trying not to be heard. "Willow?" I took a deep breath. "I heard everything tonight," I said. "Outside the door. I heard your mother talking about the plan, and I heard you try to say something, and I heard her shut you down." There was a long pause on the other end of the phone, so long that I thought maybe he had hung up on me. But then Leon let out a breath that sounded like he had been holding it for years. "I have been waiting 2 years for you to figure this out," he said, and his voice cracked a little on the words. "I tried to tell you so many times, but you never seemed to hear me, and I was too scared of my mother to just come out and say it directly. I am sorry, Willow. I should have done more." "You can do more now," I said. "Tomorrow, at the brunch." I am not going to sign those papers, and I am not going to let your mother destroy me in front of everyone. But I need someone in that room who will tell the truth. Another pause, shorter this time. I will be there tomorrow, Leon said. I will tell them everything I know. It is time someone in this family stopped letting her win. When I hung up the phone, Adelia was looking at me with something that might have been hope. We had 6 hours until that brunch, and for the first time tonight, I did not feel alone. So now I had Leon on my side, 2 years of evidence saved on my phone and backed up on Adelia's laptop, and a husband who had been a spy in my own marriage the entire time. My phone buzzed around 2 in the morning, and I looked down to see Sherlock's name on the screen, asking where I was and when I was coming home. I texted him back saying I was staying at Adelia's because I needed space to think. His response came back fast, and the words made me want to throw my phone across the room. My mother was right about you being dramatic. He actually typed those words to me on our anniversary night, the night his family ambushed me with divorce papers and a plan to humiliate me in public. His mother had spent 2 years thinking she was the puppet master, pulling all the strings, controlling every move, but she never once considered that I might have been paying attention the whole time. She thought I was too naive, too desperate to be accepted, too blind to see what was happening right in front of me. She was wrong. Leon texted me an hour later confirming he would meet me an hour before the brunch at the coffee shop 2 blocks from his parents' house so we could go over what he knew and make sure we were on the same page. The family brunch was in 8 hours, and I was going to walk in there looking exactly like the perfect wife they wanted to destroy. And then I was going to show them what happens when you underestimate someone for 2 straight years. I met Leon at the coffee shop like we planned, and we spent an hour going over everything he knew about his mother's schemes, while Adelia waited at her apartment ready to send me anything else I might need. Leon told me things that made my skin crawl, stories about other women Sherlock had dated before me, and how his mother had destroyed each of those relationships too. By the time we finished talking, I knew exactly what I was walking into, and I knew I was not going to let that woman win. I got to the brunch 15 minutes early, wearing a nice dress and my hair done up like I had spent all morning getting ready instead of staying up all night building my case. The house was the same as always, big and fancy and full of expensive things that were supposed to make everyone feel small. I walked through the front door before anyone else arrived, and Sherlock's mother was standing in the living room like she had been waiting for me. Her face did something weird when she saw me, like she was surprised I actually showed up, and then she put on this expression that was supposed to look caring, but just looked fake. "Willow, sweetheart," she said, and she walked toward me with her arms open like she was going to hug me. "I am so glad you came. I was worried about you all night. Did you sleep on your decision? I hope you had time to think about what is best for everyone." I let her hug me because I knew that was what she expected, and I kept my face calm and my voice steady. "I thought about a lot of things last night," I said, and I left it at that, because I wanted her to think I was broken and ready to give up. She smiled at me like I was a dog that had finally learned to sit, and she patted my arm in that way she always did when she thought she was being nice. "That is all we wanted, dear. Just for you to think clearly about the situation. Now, the family will be here soon, and we can have a nice conversation about how to move forward in a way that works for everyone." She said, "works for everyone," like she actually believed it, like she was not planning to humiliate me in front of a room full of people who already thought I was worthless. I nodded and smiled and played the part of the sad wife who had accepted her fate, and she looked so pleased with herself that I almost felt bad for what was coming. Almost. Sherlock came downstairs a few minutes later, and he looked tired, like he had not slept much either. When he saw me standing in the living room with his mother, he did not look happy or relieved or even guilty. He just looked annoyed, like I was a problem he had to deal with before he could get on with his day. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked, and he grabbed my arm without waiting for an answer, and pulled me toward the hallway that led to the back of the house. I let him lead me away from his mother, partly because I wanted to hear what he had to say, and partly because I needed him to think he was still in control. We stopped in a little room his family used as an office, and Sherlock closed the door behind us and stood there looking at me like he was trying to figure out what to say. "Look," he finally said, and he crossed his arms over his chest like he was the one who was uncomfortable. "I know last night was hard, but you need to understand that signing the papers quietly is going to be easier for everyone. My mother has connections, okay? She knows lawyers, judges, people who can make things really difficult for you if you decide to fight this." I stared at him, this man I had married, this man I had loved, and I tried to find any piece of the person I thought I knew. But there was nothing there, just a stranger wearing my husband's face, threatening me with his mother's power like that was supposed to make me fall in line. "Are you threatening me?" I asked, keeping my voice calm even though my heart was beating fast. "I am trying to help you," he said, and he actually sounded like he believed it. "If you just sign the papers and walk away, this can be over. But if you make this messy, my mother is going to do whatever it takes to protect this family. You do not want to see what that looks like." I took a step closer to him, and I looked him right in the eyes. "I have one question," I said, "and I need you to answer me honestly. Just once. Just this one time. Tell me the truth." Sherlock shifted his weight from one foot to the other. looking uncomfortable. What? Did you ever love me? I asked. At any point in the last 2 years, did you actually love me? Or was I always just something your mother was going to throw away when she got bored? The question hung in the air between us, and for a second I thought I saw something flicker across his face, something that might have been guilt or regret, but then it was gone, and his expression went flat and cold. I thought I could, he said, and his voice was quiet, but steady. When we first got together, I thought maybe I could learn to love you the way you wanted, but my mother helped me see who you really are. She showed me all the ways you were not right for this family, all the things I was too blind to notice on my own. So, no, Willow, I do not think I ever really loved you. I think I loved the idea of making my own choice for once, but you were never the right choice. I stood there and let those words wash over me, and I waited for them to hurt, but they did not. After everything I had learned last night, after hearing him agree with his mother that I should be thrown away, after seeing 2 years of messages proving he had been working against me the whole time, his confession just felt like the final piece of a puzzle clicking into place. I did not love this man anymore. I was not sure I ever had. I think I loved the idea of him, the idea of a family that wanted me, the idea of belonging somewhere. But the real Sherlock, the one standing in front of me right now, was just his mother's puppet. He had never been strong enough to love anyone she did not approve of. Thank you for being honest, I said, and I meant it. That is the first honest thing you have said to me in 2 years. I walked past him and out of that little office, and I heard him follow me back toward the living room where his mother was waiting. More family members had arrived while we were talking, and the dining room was filling up with faces I recognized from 2 years of uncomfortable dinners. Sherlock's father was there, looking bored as usual. His aunt and uncle were setting down a casserole dish. Some people I vaguely remembered as his father's business partners were standing near the window talking about golf. And then Leon walked through the front door. Sherlock's mother saw him first, and her face lit up with that fake smile she used for family events. "Leon, there you are," she said. "Come sit with the family, sweetheart. We are about to get started." But Leon did not walk toward the family. He looked around the room, found me standing near the edge of the dining table, and walked straight to me. He pulled out the chair right next to mine and sat down, putting himself firmly on my side of the room instead of theirs. "Hey," he said to me, and his voice was quiet but sure. "You ready for this?" I nodded, and I felt some of the tension in my shoulders start to ease. I was not alone in this room anymore. Sherlock's mother watched this happen, and I saw her face change. The fake smile dropped away, and for just a second I saw the real her underneath, the angry and controlling person who could not stand when things did not go according to her plan. Her eyes went cold as she looked at Leon, and I could tell she was already figuring out how to punish him later for this betrayal. But she pulled herself together fast, because she had a room full of people watching, and she was not going to let them see her lose control. "Well," she said, and her voice was loud enough to get everyone's attention, "now that we are all here, I think it is time to discuss the family matter we have all gathered for today." People started moving toward the dining table, taking their seats in what felt like assigned positions. Sherlock sat down across from me, next to his mother, and his father took the seat at the head of the table. The aunt and uncle settled in near Sherlock's father, and the business partners found chairs at the far end. Sherlock's mother stayed standing for a moment, looking down at all of us like a queen about to address her subjects. Then she reached down beside her chair and picked up a folder I had not noticed before. It was thick, stuffed with papers, and she set it on the table in front of her with a little pat like it was something precious. "This," she said, and she tapped the folder with one perfectly manicured finger, "is what I am calling my documentation of concerns about Willow." She looked right at me when she said my name, and there was something hungry in her eyes, like she had been waiting for this moment for 2 years, and she was finally going to enjoy it. I have spent a great deal of time putting this together, and I think everyone here deserves to understand exactly why this marriage needs to end. Leon's hand found mine under the table and squeezed, and I squeezed back. Sherlock's mother had no idea what was about to happen. She thought she was about to destroy me with that folder full of lies. She had no idea I had a folder of my own, 2 years of truth saved on my phone and ready to be read out loud. The brunch was just getting started, and I was not going anywhere until everyone in this room knew exactly who the real villain was. After Sherlock admitted his mother helped him see who I really was, I felt the last piece of my denial crumble away. This man never chose me. He was never going to choose me. But instead of feeling broken, I felt free, because now I did not have to protect his feelings anymore. His mother sat there with her little folder of lies, looking so proud of herself, so certain she had won. Leon squeezed my arm under the table. Adelia had given me a backup copy of everything on a flash drive the night before, just in case something happened to my phone. Sherlock's mother was about to present her case against me, and she had no idea I was about to present mine. The moment she finished talking was the moment everything would change. This is where she finds out I am not the helpless target she thought I was. Sherlock's mother opened her folder with a little smile on her face, like she was about to read a bedtime story she had written herself. Let me begin with some of the financial concerns, she said, and her voice was loud enough for everyone at the table to hear clearly. Over the past 2 years, I have documented multiple instances of excessive spending on Willow's part. Credit card bills that made no sense, purchases she hid from Sherlock, money disappearing from their joint account without explanation. She flipped to another page in her folder. Then there is the matter of her family. As many of you know, Willow has become completely estranged from her own sister and parents. A woman who cannot maintain relationships with her own blood family is not someone who can be trusted to be part of ours. I sat there listening to her lies, keeping my face calm even though my heart was pounding. She was not done yet. And finally, she said, lowering her voice like she was sharing something painful, there is the emotional instability. Sherlock has confided in me many times about Willow's mood swings, her irrational behavior, her tendency to twist situations and make herself the victim. I have texts from my own son describing crying episodes, paranoid accusations, and refusals to attend family events because she claimed she was not feeling well. She closed the folder and looked around the table with sad eyes that did not match the satisfaction I could see underneath. We did not want to bring any of this up publicly, but Willow has left us no choice. We need to protect our son from a marriage that is clearly doing him harm. I looked at Sherlock while his mother spoke, and he was nodding along with every single thing she said, not just sitting there quietly, but actually nodding, like he agreed with every lie coming out of her mouth. His father cleared his throat when she finished and added his own piece. We only want what is best for our son, he said, and he sounded so reasonable, so caring. This is not about hurting Willow. This is about making sure Sherlock has the future he deserves. The aunt and uncle were nodding too, and the business partners at the end of the table looked uncomfortable but did not say anything. Everyone in this room had already made up their minds about me based on 2 years of lies this woman had been feeding them. They thought they knew who I was. They had no idea. I waited until the room was quiet, until everyone had finished agreeing with each other about how terrible I was. And then I spoke. May I respond? I asked, and I kept my voice soft and polite, the way I had learned to speak around this family. Sherlock's mother looked at me with that smile again, the one that said she had already won and was just going through the motions now. Of course, dear, she said, and she leaned back in her chair like she was settling in for a show. We believe in fairness. Say whatever you need to say. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The room was watching me, probably expecting me to cry or beg or try to defend myself with words that would not matter. Instead, I unlocked my screen and opened the folder Adelia had helped me organize the night before. I would like to read some text messages, I said, and my voice was steady now, stronger. These are messages between you and Sherlock, sent over the past 2 years. I think everyone here deserves to hear what was really happening in my marriage. Sherlock's mother's smile flickered for just a second, but she recovered fast. I do not know what you think you have, but this is hardly the time for games, she said. We are trying to have a serious conversation about your future. This is serious, I said. The first message is from 18 months ago, sent from you to Sherlock. It says, and I am reading this exactly as it was written, you need to keep her away from her sister. The more she talks to her own family, the more likely she is to leave. Make sure she depends on us. The room went very quiet. I did not look up from my phone. I just kept reading. Sherlock responded to that message by saying, I know. I have been telling her that her sister is a bad influence. She believed me. I scrolled to the next message. Here is another one from about a year ago. You wrote to Sherlock, make sure she depends on us financially. Encourage her to quit her job or reduce her hours. The more she needs us, the harder it will be for her to leave. And Sherlock wrote back, she has been talking about going back to school. I told her we could not afford it and she should focus on being home more. She was disappointed, but she listened. I looked up from my phone for the first time and saw the faces around the table. The aunt had her hand over her mouth. The uncle was staring at Sherlock's mother with his eyebrows raised. The business partners were exchanging looks like they wished they had not come to this brunch. And Sherlock, my husband who had just sat there nodding while his mother called me emotionally unstable, had turned bright red. His face was the color of a tomato, and he was gripping the edge of the table so hard his knuckles had gone white. There is more, I said, and I scrolled to another message. This one is from 6 months ago. You wrote, report back on her mental state. I need to know if she is becoming suspicious. Watch for any signs she is talking to a lawyer or saving money on her own. Sherlock responded with, she has no idea. She still thinks I am on her side. I check her phone and email when she is asleep just to make sure. That is enough, Sherlock's mother said, and her voice was different now, higher and tighter. She stood up from her chair and reached across the table toward me. Give me that phone. You do not know what you are doing. But I pulled back before she could grab it, holding the phone against my chest. I know exactly what I am doing, I said. I am showing everyone in this room who you really are. You did not just want Sherlock to divorce me, you wanted him to destroy me first. You wanted me isolated from my family, dependent on your money, and so broken down that I would sign whatever papers you put in front of me without a fight. Sherlock's mother was still standing, and her face had gone from satisfied to furious in a matter of seconds. She looked around the table like she was waiting for someone to help her, but nobody moved. Even Sherlock's father was staring at her like he was seeing something he had never noticed before. "These are private family conversations," she said, and she was trying to get her composure back, trying to sound reasonable again. "You had no right to read those. You had no right to keep them." "They are conversations about my life," I said. "They are plans you made to control me without my knowledge. I had every right to know that my husband was reporting back to you about my mental state, like I was some kind of project you were managing." I kept my phone close to me, watching her eyes follow it like she was a cat tracking a bird. She took another step toward me, her hand reaching out again, and I could see her fingers shaking with rage. "I said, give me that phone," she hissed through her teeth. Leon stood up beside me and put himself between us. "Sit down, Mom," he said, and his voice was quiet but firm. "Everyone in this room just heard what you did. Grabbing her phone is not going to change that." Sherlock's mother looked at her younger son like she had never seen him before, like he had grown a second head right there at the table. The room stayed frozen, nobody moving, nobody speaking, just the sound of Sherlock's mother breathing hard through her nose while she tried to figure out how to take back control of a situation that had completely slipped away from her. Her folder of lies sat open and useless on the table in front of her empty chair, and for the first time since I met this woman, she looked like she did not know what to do next. After I read the first 10 messages out loud, Sherlock's mother actually lunged forward and tried to slap the phone right out of my hand, but I pulled back fast and kept reading the next message about how she told Sherlock to monitor my bank account. Sherlock was completely frozen in his seat, not moving, not speaking, just sitting there with his face red and his mouth slightly open, like he could not figure out what was happening. His father was staring at his wife like he was seeing her for the first time, like someone had ripped a mask off and shown him a stranger. Leon stood up next to me and his voice came out loud and clear when he said, "She has been doing this to every woman Sherlock has ever dated. I have watched her destroy 3 relationships before this one." Sherlock's mother whipped around to face Leon and screamed, "Shut your mouth, Leon, you have no idea what you are talking about." That is when I knew I had her, when I saw her lose control like that in front of everyone she was trying to impress. She was not composed anymore. She was not the calm and reasonable mother protecting her son. She was just angry and desperate and caught. The folder full of lies sat there useless on the table while the truth filled every corner of that room. And now it was time for the final piece, the part where Leon told everyone exactly what he had been watching for years. Leon took a deep breath and looked around the table at all the faces that had watched his mother run this family for decades, and then he pulled out his own phone and held it up so everyone could see the screen. "I have something to show you all," he said, and his voice was shaking a little, but he did not stop. "Mom started planning Sherlock's divorce before he even proposed to Willow. I have the texts right here." He turned his phone toward his father first, then slowly moved it so the aunt and uncle could see, then the business partners at the end of the table. "She sent me these messages 3 years ago, before Sherlock and Willow were even engaged. She asked me to help her find dirt on Willow. She wanted me to follow her around and report back on anything she did wrong. She wanted me to pretend to be Willow's friend so I could spy on her and give Mom information to use later." I watched Sherlock's mother as Leon spoke, and I saw something I had never seen before on her face. Fear. Real. Actual fear. She was looking at her younger son like he had just stabbed her in the back, which I guess in her mind he had. "Leon, stop this right now," she said, and her voice was low and dangerous. "You do not know what you are doing. You are going to tear this family apart." "You already tore it apart," Leon said, and he did not back down. "You have been tearing it apart for years. Every woman Sherlock ever dated, you did this to. You found reasons to hate them. You built cases against them. You made Sherlock choose between them and you. And Sherlock always chose you because he was too scared to do anything else." Sherlock's father had been quiet this whole time, just sitting there with his face getting more and more red, but now he slammed his hand down on the table so hard that the plates rattled. "Is this true?" he demanded, looking right at his wife. "Did you plan this before they were even married? Did you set this whole thing up from the beginning?" Sherlock's mother opened her mouth to answer, but nothing came out. She just stood there with her lips moving and no words coming, like a fish pulled out of water. I had never seen her speechless before. She always had something to say, always had some clever response ready to make herself look good and everyone else look stupid. But not now. Now she had nothing. "Answer me," Sherlock's father said, and his voice got louder. "I signed those divorce papers because you told me Willow was cheating on our son. You said you had proof. You said you had photos from the investigator showing her with another man. Was any of that true?" I felt my whole body go cold when I heard those words. She had told him I was cheating. That was the lie she used to get him on her side. That was why he had been checking his watch at the anniversary dinner like the whole thing was just another business meeting. He thought he was helping protect his son from a cheating wife. He had no idea he was helping his wife destroy an innocent woman. "The investigator found nothing like that," I said, and I was surprised at how calm my voice sounded. He followed me for almost a year and found nothing because there was nothing to find. I never cheated on Sherlock. I never even thought about it. I loved him. I thought he loved me too. Sherlock's father turned to look at me, and I saw something change in his face. He was not looking at me like I was the enemy anymore. He was looking at me like he was finally seeing the truth. Then he turned back to his wife with an expression that was pure anger. "What else have you lied about?" he asked, and his voice was quieter now, but somehow scarier. "What else have you done to control this family? How many times have you told me something and it was all made up?" Sherlock's mother finally found her voice, but it came out high and defensive. "Everything I did was to protect this family. You do not understand the pressures I face, the things I have to do to keep everyone safe. Willow was a threat from the moment she walked into our lives. She was going to take Sherlock away from us, turn him against his own family, make him forget where he came from. I had to stop that from happening." "By lying to everyone?" Sherlock's father asked. "By hiring people to stalk her? By making our son spy on his own wife? By telling me she was unfaithful when she was not?" He stood up from his chair at the head of the table and took a step back, like he could not stand to be close to her anymore. "I have been married to you for 35 years. How much of what you have told me has been the truth?" The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. The aunt and uncle were staring at Sherlock's mother like they had never seen her before. The business partners looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. And Sherlock, my husband who had nodded along with every lie his mother told about me, was sitting there with his head in his hands like he was the victim in all of this. That made something snap inside me. Watching him sit there feeling sorry for himself while everyone else dealt with the mess his mother made, the mess he helped her make. He was not innocent in this. He was not some poor kid caught between his wife and his mother. He made choices every single day for 2 years, and every single one of those choices was to betray me. "This is not fair," Sherlock finally said, and his voice came out whiny and defensive. "Everyone is acting like I am the bad guy here, but I was just trying to keep the peace. Mom was always in my ear about Willow, and Willow was always upset about Mom, and I was stuck in the middle trying to make everyone happy. I did not want any of this to happen. I just wanted everyone to get along." I stared at him across that table, this man I had married, this man I had built a life with, and I felt nothing but disgust. "You were never keeping peace," I said, and my voice was steady and clear. "You were keeping me trapped. Every time you told me my sister was a bad influence, you were following your mother's orders. Every time you said we could not afford something I wanted, you were keeping me dependent on your family. Every time you logged into my email while I was asleep, you were making sure I could not escape. That is not keeping peace, Sherlock. That is keeping a prisoner." Sherlock's face twisted up like he was about to argue, but then he just deflated back into his chair. He did not have a defense because there was no defense. The texts were right there on my phone. The proof was right there in front of everyone. He could not pretend anymore. I looked around the table at all these people who had spent 2 years thinking I was the problem. The aunt who never invited me to lunch with her other nieces. The uncle who talked to Sherlock like I was not even in the room. The business partners who barely remembered my name, even though I had met them at least 10 times. They all believed the story Sherlock's mother had been telling because they trusted her. They thought they knew who I was based on her lies. "I want everyone here to understand something," I said, and I made sure to look at each of them as I spoke. "For 2 years, I tried to be part of this family. I cooked for you. I bought presents for your birthdays. I showed up to every event even when I knew I was not welcome. I bent over backwards trying to earn approval that was never going to come. And the whole time this woman was building a case to throw me away like garbage." I turned to face Sherlock's mother directly. She was still standing there, but she looked smaller now, like all the air had gone out of her. Her perfect hair was coming loose from where she had run her hands through it, and her makeup was smeared a little around her eyes. She did not look like the powerful woman who controlled everyone around her anymore. She looked like someone who had finally been caught. "I am not signing anything," I said, and I made sure my voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not the divorce papers, not any agreements, nothing. You thought you could bully me into giving up, but you were wrong. You thought I was too stupid to see what was happening, but I was watching and keeping records the whole time. And here is something else you should know." I paused and watched her face. She was looking at me with pure hatred now. No more pretending to be the caring mother-in-law. No more fake concern for my well-being. This was the real her, the one who had been trying to destroy me for 2 years. "My lawyer already has everything," I said. "Every text message, every email, every voicemail. I sent it all to him last night after I left the restaurant. And this morning, before I came here, I sent a copy to your family attorney too. The one who drew up those divorce papers. The one who probably thought he was helping protect your son from a bad marriage. He knows the truth now. He knows exactly what kind of person you are." Sherlock's mother's face went white. Actually white, like all the blood just drained out of it. Her mouth opened and closed a few times, but nothing came out. She looked at her husband, who was staring at her with disgust. She looked at Leon, who had finally stopped being afraid of her. She looked at Sherlock, who was still sitting there with his head in his hands like a child who had broken something and did not want to admit it. She had no one left. You cannot do this, she finally said, and her voice came out as a whisper. You cannot just send private family matters to lawyers without permission. That is not how this works. Actually, it is exactly how this works, I said. When someone spends 2 years planning to destroy your life, you have every right to protect yourself. And that is what I am doing. I am protecting myself from you and from your son and from this whole family that was never going to accept me, no matter what I did. I stood up from my chair and Leon stood up with me. He had been quiet for the last few minutes, letting me say what I needed to say, but he was still right there beside me, still on my side. Leon is the only decent person in this family, I said, looking at Sherlock's parents. He tried to warn me. He tried to tell me something was wrong, and your mother shut him down every single time because she could not stand the idea that someone might ruin her perfect little plan. I picked up my purse from where I had set it on the floor and slung it over my shoulder. I am leaving now, I said, and I am not coming back. The next time you hear from me, it will be through my lawyer. You wanted a divorce so badly. Well, you are going to get one, but it is going to be on my terms, not yours. I started walking toward the door, and Leon fell into step beside me. Behind us, I could hear Sherlock's mother finally finding her voice again, screaming something about how I was ruining everything, how I had no right, how she would make me regret this. But I did not turn around. I did not give her the satisfaction of seeing my face one more time. I walked out getting ready to build a life without Sherlock and his mom and his stupid family.